We are doing human design here today. What is human design? Why would we even want to talk about human design? Well, human design is a person's energetic blueprints. This is how a person knows how to use their body, like a user manual, just like anything that you get that you don't know how to use properly. We have the user manual right here. Let's just throw the most juiciest reason as to why we would want to know this type of information. Well, human design allows you to have your purpose flow through you without getting your brain involved. That's the juiciest part of why we talk about human design. Let's go over it a little bit more though. Human design, like I said, is your energetic blueprints, which means you know by your energetic blueprints how to say your yes and no. That's what we're running over today, is how to say your yes and no. But when you understand how to say your yes and no is your strategy and authority. And it doesn't matter if I'm talking to this beauty here, Sky, or if we are talking to anybody else in chat or any rerunners watching this. This is how you say your yes and no. This is your choice mechanism right here, your strategy and authority. All right, we're building on ourselves here. So, if you know your energy, then you know your means on how to say yes and no. And if you understand how to say your yes and no, then that obviously means you're making correct decisions for you if you decide to follow them, which ultimately leads to the first thing we said. It allows your purpose to flow through you without getting your brain involved. Let's explain that one more time. Human design is your energetic blueprints. It allows you to understand who you are so you can make correct decisions for you using your strategy and your authority, your yes and no. And if you follow your strategy and authority, then you allow your purpose to flow through you. And since we're talking about purpose, we may as well say that right here, your incarnation cross is your purpose. So it doesn't matter if we're talking once again to Sky or if we're talking to anybody in chat. Your purpose is the incarnation cross. We're not going to be running over what incarnation cross means today. No. But I just told you that if you understand how to say your yes and no, then you automatically allow your purpose to flow through you. So we don't necessarily need the brain candy as to what's behind this in order to understand how to get our purpose to flow through us. No. The only thing we got to do is to understand our strategy and authority, which is our choice mechanism, or it's our yes and no, how to say our yes and no. If we're talking about the brain candy, I don't want you to think about it the whole time. So we're talking about your incarnation cross. Whether it's you or anybody in chat, it's very important that if you do decide to Google this, incarnation cross, your purpose in life, after you've gotten your chart, make sure that you include these first few words here. It could say right angle, juxtaposition, or left angle. Make sure you include that. Make sure you include the whole sentence of words and the 4 numbers at the end so that you can get the proper information, because there are 4 types. Sorry, that is not even correct. There are multiple types of incarnation crosses per each one. And we just want to make sure that you're getting the information for the proper one. Alrighty. That is one way to explain human design. Human design allows your purpose to flow through you if you allow yourself to understand your yes and no, and you follow that yes and no, which means following your strategy and authority. But I like to explain it a different way. Human design, we can explain it as, well, we are born into a gender, a race, society, maybe a religion, and there's things that people expect from genders, societies, and we hate to even say it, but race. And people are conditioned to be those things. We're raised from babies, we go to school, and our teachers and our authoritative figures expect us to be a certain way. So we change our little baby selves and to adhere to what the outside world wants from us. And then when we grow older and we leave the nest, we're like, yes, I'm free. But are we really, though? Our bosses expect us to act a certain way. There's laws of life, or, maybe all of these different things in life force us to change us from who we really are at the basic core level. Maybe we experience trauma, humiliation, and we created coping mechanisms for those. Or maybe we saw that someone else over there was doing it better, so we decided to change ourselves so that we could be like this person over there. And there could just be a multitude of reasons as to why a person changes their self, or just the basic conditioning factors in life. But yeah, this just reminds us of who we are before all of those things happened. Human design is you from the time you're born until the time that you leave this earth. This is your energy and what you can rely on. This is SkySheSees. When I first saw this energy, one of the first things I said was, ooh, because of all of this juicy energy that I see up here in the center. When we do this particular reading, we are going to be dividing it into two different experiences. Part one is going to be me explaining to you the most important piece of this experience. How to say your yes and no, because that is why we're here. And then we're going to go over in part two a little bit of brain candy, going into a little bit of your design and telling you a little bit about who you are. I just want to keep in mind that this is an overview reading. A foundational analysis is super deep and super explanatory, and it's nothing like this at all. If you want more experiences to what a true foundational analysis is, you can go over and check out my other videos as to what a solar return is, or what a relationship or companionship analysis connection reading is like. This is truly here to allow a person to get the basic intro to who they are, because when I got my foundational reading, I didn't understand how to do this stuff. Nobody explained it to me. It was just briefly ran over, but it's the most important part of our whole experience, is how to say our yes and no, because if we say our yes and no, we're making correct decisions for us. If we're making correct decisions for us and we follow them, then we're allowing our purpose to flow through us. Okay, so we're going to start with part one. Part one, what do you need to know? The most important part that you need to know is how to say your yes and no. We've already said that your strategy and authority is your yes and no mechanism. And we can also call it a choice mechanism, but to follow your choice mechanism, to follow your yes and no, or to follow your strategy and authority, that's what we really call how to say your yes and no in the human design, following your strategy and authority. So this is a jargon term for everybody if you want to ingest it, following your strategy and authority. Before we step into how you say your yes and no, I want you to hear this word come from my mouth. These words, I guess. Manifesting generator. Let's compare it to astrology. This is not astrology, but let's compare it to it. Over in astrology, we know that Leo exists, Sagittarius exists, Capricorn exists, etc. And just like over in the astrology section, those titles exist, but there's much more to them. Same over here in the human design world. You are a manifesting generator. That is who you are. So it's just like comparison over to the astrology world. You're a manifesting generator. That, like I said, is comparison to Leo or those Gemini, those other words that we were just speaking earlier. We're not necessarily supposed to understand what this word means here. To someone like myself who is not trained in astrology, I don't know necessarily what Gemini means, what months or what day, or what type of energy is behind it. So to an untrained person like myself in astrology, Gemini means really not much to me, but it means a lot to someone who is trained, right? And that's the same thing here, is that if you are untrained and you're coming into this particular experience, then manifesting generator doesn't mean much to you, but it surely does mean something to an analyst. So it's just a lot of information. You're supposed to hear it because it really does touch you at the DNA level. But this is something that you already knew. You're a manifesting generator. I think it's a rare type of manifesting generator, because usually a manifesting generator pops up from over here or pops up from over here. It's more often that I see the other types than your kind of type of manifesting generators. So I would say this is a very type of unique energy that we see going on here. I'm getting way too far into the jargon here. Let's set myself straight. But I'm sure you wanted to hear that anyway. We were going back to part 1. What is the most important thing that you need to hear? How to say your yes and no. And you are here to respond through your sacral. Strategy and authority, responding through your sacral. I know that's a bunch of jargon, but don't worry, we'll go over it. But this is your sacral. It doesn't matter who we're talking to. This nice red square here is the sacral. And this is where your response comes from if you are a generator. When I said that I looked at your energy and I said, ooh, that was me responding in that moment to, ooh, I like what I see. That's a response. But let me tell you what a response really is. A response is not you thinking about something in your head only and then asking it into your head only and saying, is this something I want to do? And then responding to it. No, that's not a response. Nope. A response is an external cue of some sort. So let's just say someone comes into your chat and says, ! join. You are going to respond. Either it is full, or you're almost finishing, or you have time to do it. That's response. Another response, as I live with my fiance and my 2 kitties, another response, it doesn't necessarily have to come from a person. It could come from the environment. Maybe it's raining out. You put up the umbrella. For some reason, that one came to mind. But when my cat sees cat litter, I can smell it from the front room. I surely respond to standing up immediately because I don't want to have the cat poop dust bubbles in the air and me just chomping on them all night. That's gross. So I respond to getting up and, fixing that cat litter situation. So just because I'm not necessarily near a lot of people on a regular basis, a lot of different people, it's not, I have plenty to respond to on a regular basis. So let us talk about it on a body level though. I just told you it's not questions to yourself. But it could be maybe you respond to, oh, well, my bladder's full. I got to go and do something about it. It is really about that response to what's happening in the body. You're laying in bed, your eyes pop open. Why? Why did you respond to popping your eyes open? Are you finished sleeping? Are you hearing the dog bark? Do you have to pee? You respond that you have to pee, so you get out of bed. Well, upon getting up, you realize it's a little bit chillier in the room. Then you realize, so you respond to putting on a hoodie, and you respond to grabbing your phone, because you know that there's a little bit of pressure on the backside too, so you're going to be spending a little bit more time on the toilet than expected, so you respond to, entertaining thyself on the toilet as you go. So that was a bunch of responses. You woke up. Why? And then there could have been a million different things that you did in that moment. You could have went to the bathroom chilly, but you responded to possibly putting on a sweater or a house robe. And then you like your next bodily cue after you said, oh, well, I got to pee. My backside's got a little bit of pressure too. I'm going to bring my phone. There was just many things to respond to in that particular moment. And it had nothing to do with people or an animal. So, those are responses as well. Now, I'm a generator. I'm not a manifesting generator, but I'm a generator, so I surely know exactly what being a generator means. As a psychic, intuitive realm leader, there are so many shiny things that pass by us. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. So there's so many tarot decks. There's so many oracle decks. There's so many charms. There's so many different sets of runes. And the list is just infinite regarding all the things that we might want to buy, all the things that we might want to get interested in, just all the things. So, in my opinion, all those pretty sparkly, frilly little things is a response. Otherwise, it wouldn't be frilly. Otherwise, you'd say, What I do as myself is that when I respond, I end up writing down what I respond to. I want to do this course. I want to study this. I want to do that. And then when I feel like I have the response to do something and I'm bored, I just go to the lists and I put my finger down the list and say, no, yeah. So I eventually find something through response that I want to do. Or some of them, the frilly, sparkly things that I respond to eventually get put into the I don't want to do it list, because I've eventually responded that, yeah, it was frilly and I don't want to do it. I don't need it. I don't want it. So let's talk about that. We talked about what a response could be, but what does a response sound like? People who are a generator, that's like 70% of the world, a little bit less. 70% of the world are generators. You keep on saying, I'm a manifesting generator, Katie. I know. But you're clumped in the same group as me, as a generator. Manifesting generators. Why or us? That's it. That's all you gotta know. So 70% of the population around are generators. So you're here to respond. So that means that 70% of the population has this caveman or guttural or baby-like sounds that they have inside of them that have been gifted to them as their choice mechanism. Oh. When a baby likes something, ooh. When a baby doesn't like something, they let you know. So those are the type of sounds that we're looking for here. So when I said earlier, when I first saw your chart, I was like, ooh, that's a good response. That's a nice, awesome. That's a fun one. That's great. I like it. So yes, This particular sound, and or I know me per se, it was deconditioned out of me. A little slap on the hand when I didn't say yes or no, because yeah and nah and and weren't correct for society. My parents were like, don't say that. Don't even say nah. You have to say no. Don't even say yeah. You have to say yes. And so a lot of people are deconditioned away from who they are as a person. So if you feel like that's you, whether it be Sky or anybody in chat, if you are a part of being a generator, ask yourself questions that you know you like. Do you like pizza? Uh-huh. Well, do you like anchovies and pickles on your pizza? Uh-uh. So you can start, if a person is deconditioned away from their and ask yourself easy questions that you know the answer to help you get reacquainted with your response mechanism. Now, if you say things like, oh, or maybe you just don't know. Maybe right now isn't the proper timing. Maybe your energy needs to be asked a different way. Or maybe in 5 minutes you will know. Maybe in 5 minutes will be So, for example, I don't know, this was like 2 weeks ago. I had an emotional night because of trauma therapy. It was a good thing. And I ugly cried for like 3 hours. And my fiance was like, I don't know what to do. It was like, that was my reaction. I was like, So I was like, well, I guess I don't know what to do either. There's nothing that needs to be done right now. So instead of me trying to find all of these holistic ways for him to support me, or physical or emotional ways for him to support me, he threw up his hands and said, I don't know. And my body said, I don't know either. And that's okay. And literally it took me like half a day to process all the stuff that I needed to, and I talked to him about it afterwards. So it wasn't then that I could talk about it, it was later. And that's okay. So and I'm sure that once you start listening to yourself and those sounds in the moment, you'll start recognizing what might be healthy for you or not, or what you should start committing to or not. As I said, I am very familiar with this and because I have this particular somewhat setup of energy, so that and is something that I resonate with deeply. I love it. So we ran over what an external cue really was, or like what an internal cue really was. It's not brain asking yourself something. It's something external that's frilly or shiny. I have another example, is that maybe just because you committed to something originally, saying and you did it, maybe that's not always going to be the proper commitment for you over time, and your energy will tell you when things need to change. And we're actually going into that as our second part of our experience tonight. All right. What we see here is us moving into the second part of our experience. The reason why I like to tell people that we're moving on to the second part is so that we can all change our brains over to, now we're just going to talk about some jargon. It's not really supposed to be organized, but it's stuff that would be fun to hear, anywho. So we're going over to everything else, the brain candy. We already went over the most important part of human design. Remember, if you say and you follow that you're allowing your purpose to flow through you. If your body says and you follow that then you're allowing your purpose to flow through you. And your purpose is the incarnation cross. And it happens to be that SkySheSees is the right angle cross of the Sphinx. That is her purpose, their purpose. All right. Part 1 described that your body will tell you when something's no longer proper for you. Let's get into it. We just revealed it on the screen here. It's the not self theme. It's frustration. So, this is jargon. As a generator, generators get frustrated when they're in their not self. I just want to take that a little step further. 99.999% of people are making choices that really aren't correct for them, including myself. So that means that 70% of the world are generators and 70% of the world are making not self decisions. So that means that 70% of the world is frustrated. Imagine the tension that people are feeling in the world because 70% of the world is frustrated. Anywho, girls, guys, and gemstones, when you make a proper commitment, when you respond correctly, whether you're following your strategy and authority, or whatever you got going on there, when you follow it, you're allowing your purpose to flow through you, as we've discussed many times before. But if you do the opposite, if your body said and you said I'm too afraid, I'm not going to do it, I don't have the resources, I don't have the mentality, I don't have the whatever to do it, I'm scared, that's the opposite. So you will find yourself possibly in a not self theme called frustration. So if you follow your strategy and authority, or if you follow your and then you follow your purpose. But if you do the opposite of what your strategy and authority says, or you do the opposite of your and then you have the tendencies to fall into this instead and fall off the path of being in the flow. And your frustration will indicate where in your life something needs to change. So I'm just going to ask you, Sky, I'm going to ask everybody in chat, all rerunners, 70% of you are generators, so this resonates with 70% of people. Where are you frustrated in life? And what needs to change in order for that to be different? Now, of course, we got our brains involved in, I could do this, I could do that, but that's not the point. Everything where you're frustrated, that's just a key indicator that something needs to change. It doesn't mean that we need to start something or stop something. Something just needs to change. So, maybe you got a job and it's the perfect job, and then you just became frustrated. And then you realize that something just needs to change. And you know what? Most people just quit their jobs, and that's not necessarily the answer. Let's give myself an example. In my last job, it was great. I became super frustrated, and then my boss got fired. My frustration went away. It was actually him that needed to get fired as to what needed to be changed. It's very rare that our bosses are the ones who, are the one ejected. So usually we eject ourselves. But, frustration is a key theme as to what needs to possibly change in your life. So let's go over that again. As a generator, we've already run over how you commit to things properly. And Now, I've just said that even if you've committed to something properly, you might run into frustration. Yeah. I think it's great that we have this key up-level indicator to show us that we've just gone off track a little. It's okay if you're frustrated. It just shows you that something needs to change. And how are you going to respond now as to how things are going to change? Once again, not overthinking as to what could change. It's responding in the moment as to what could happen. So moment by moment, decision by decision, trying to move yourself away from that frustration. So it doesn't matter if we're talking to Sky or if we're talking to anybody else in chat with any other type or any other not self theme. If it says disappointment, if it says anger, those are all key indicators in your life as to where something could possibly change. Where are you angry? Where are you disappointed? Etc. So far we know how Sky says yes and no. We understand that if Sky says yes and no and follows that yes and no, or that strategy and authority, their purpose flows through them. But if they do the opposite, then we see frustration. Which is, it's nice to have an indicator to know when we've kind of fallen off track. And frustration reminds us that there's possibility for us to be in the flow again. That's what we know so far. That's what we've covered so far in this experience. Now, we're in the brain candy aspect of who this person is. And because this person is a single definition and a right angle, that is a lot of jargon. I don't expect you to know any of what I just said. But because of those two things and a few different other parts in your chart, it almost is as if Sky has her blinders onto the world, and people might even call her out on that. For me, there might be different words than you because our energies are different, but people have seen it as cold or distanced or not involved or on the sidelines, or, you know, it's just like, this is my purpose, I see it, and everything else, you know, your energy doesn't necessarily require the other as much as the rest of the world may. You and I both are single definition, and we are both right angle. So I highly resonate with the fact of, you know, the blinders on in the world, and we're just here to do our thing. Never let anybody make you feel bad about who you are, and that's the point of this whole experience. If I'm meant to have my blinders on in the world and not meant to be a humanitarian, that's who I'm meant to be. You're like, well, you are a humanitarian. You're sitting here helping people. I don't see myself as a humanitarian. I just want to see people be happy and shed the shackles, you know. So the only other thing that we have to run over here is profile. And before we even start to talk about this, remember, we're just going over this on a very, very, very surface level here. If you're going to Google your purpose, which is the Incarnation Cross, or if you're going to Google your profile to get more information on it, you may not resonate with what the Incarnation Cross says or what the profile says. Let me tell you why. Most of us are so far away from who we really are, we don't resonate with what some of these words say. When I first started my journey, this Incarnation Cross, my purpose, I didn't recognize my purpose. That wasn't me, is what I've said. But now that I'm more into knowing who I am, I fully resonate with my Incarnation Cross. And yeah, it is me. And it's the same thing with the profile. Until you are closer to who you truly are as a person, instead of society's conditioned version of what they want you to be, these two things really may not make any sense to you. You may not even see them as you. They're not me. So let's go back to the profile. Your profile, I like to call this the costume that you wear on the stage of life. So this is how people see you, or you see yourself, or the role that you play, I guess. So let's just say that society wants you to be a certain thing, person, place, thing, or experience. They want you to be exactly that. So on the stage of life, you're going to put on that costume. It just happens to be that that costume is about a foot too short for you and about 6 inches too small around the waist. Well, my dear, that costume's probably gonna feel really uncomfortable, or might not even fit, or it's just gonna burst when you try to get into it. It's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna feel good. It's gonna feel gross. It's just not gonna be nice. Um, and, and the more and more that we make decisions for who we are as a person, I believe that this is where we start to feel more comfortable with who we are in our body. Personally, I've always felt like I was pretty, but I never loved myself, my body. I never felt like, the societal standard of like pressure, was on me. So I felt ugly. I felt gross. I just didn't feel like my body was mine. And I often quite wonder when people say I feel like I don't belong on this earth or in this continent. My mom says things like I was born into the wrong race. I feel like maybe like Trinidad is a more of a place for me, and she's definitely a Polish Canadian. um, so I wonder if that's where people get those particular feelings of I don't feel like I'm in the right place, the right body. And I'm not talking about gender identification. No, I'm just talking about those particular spiritual words that we hear coming out of people's mouths. I'd be digging too deep there. Um, but the point is that we usually try to fit into the costume of what other people expect from us, and it's just uncomfortable. That's the point. Who are you? You are an investigator. You are a person who investigates, and unfortunately, your grounding may feel unsturdy or unsteady beneath your feet, and you may not want to externalize what you know until you've finished your investigations. So you usually keep quiet about the things that you're investigating until you're ready to bring it out to your network. And that's truly it. The other half of you is that you're a networker, you're an opportunist, you're a person who is here to have opportunities through the network. You externalize the things that you respond to, and yeah. So you're a person who is an investigator, opportunist. Um, yeah. Now we are going to run into some of the stuff that's over here in the chart. We're going to take a few moments and run over some of the brain candy that you might find interesting, whether it be you, Sky, or other people that are watching right now. All right, let's start with what we see here. It looks like a triangle. It looks like some more triangles inside the triangle, and maybe a person looking sideways. Cool. We're getting grounded in. We see that there's some numbers over here. We see that there's some numbers over here. We see red numbers. We see black numbers. We see red gates. We see black gates. Do they correspond to one another? Yeah. Go ahead and look it up. This is kind of like the mind, and this is kind of like the body. And they're in a forced marriage. They kind of didn't know about each other, but now they're together. You know? And you would think that forced marriage, they would be side by side, but remember, it's more like this is how they know about each other. It's not really like side by side. It's like this is how they work together. And I know that's more brain candy than anything, but they don't really work harmoniously together. Why? Because this is what your body's doing, and this is what your brain's doing, but this is actually you. So what's nice about this is that we have the chance to look at your body and brain working together and knowing kind of what each other might be doing. What do we see here about you? Let's talk about the not self expressions that we might be able to see you as, and then we'll talk about who you might be as well. The not self expression can be found in the centers here. So, Sky, you're probably under a lot of pressure, mental pressure, and physical pressure. So, you might be under a lot of pressure. You might be feeling like you have to hurry and hurry and hurry to get things done, just to realize that there's more things to get done. You, just like I said earlier, for the whole being in the intuitive realm, not knowing what you might want to study next, it's hard. So you need to respond into the next experience of what you may want materialistically or intellectually for your next steps in your journey. So what I like to talk about regarding this one down here is that people looking outside into you might call you a procrastinator or lazy, but that's not true. The wisdom here is that you know exactly what needs to get done, when it needs to get done. But like I said, I like to call it just gaining the proper fuel to understand all of those things and then finally doing it or not. So you may feel super pressured or overwhelmed by all the things that you have to do, or you may just be running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So those are two experiences of not self, but the wisdom is that nobody externally is going to pressure you to get things done. You know when things need to get done. And same with intellectually, same thing. If you're a desk worker, I was a desk worker, but if you're a desk worker, it's quite easy to accumulate the work of other people, to help others in your unit or, I don't know, region, zone, whatever, because you have the answers. And what's interesting is that a lot of people probably ask you things because the not self-expression of the center is, oh, I'll find the answer. And I bet a lot of people know that Sky has the answer to a lot of different things because the pressure, you just want to relieve it. Oh, where's my keys? Oh, well, I'll find them. They're not even your keys. Why are you finding them? How do you even know where they are? All right, let's talk about this particular center here. What could be a not self-expression here? Well, I know from my personal experience, because I have these two open or undefined or not colored, the not self-expression here could be that maybe you don't want to say anything until you know fact because you don't want to be humiliated. That was my expression of not self. Some not self-expressions here are know-it-alls. And I'm not calling you a know-it-all, but that's what it kind of comes off as, is that when people get corrected and they don't ask to be corrected. For instance, a person's in the middle of a sentence and they say something wrong and you're like, well, this is actually how you say it. So it's not that you want to prove that you're a know-it-all. You just want to help the person not be humiliated themselves with the way they say something, right? So it's not about being a know-it-all, and it's not about, it could be, but my rigidity here is that I didn't want to be humiliated. So I didn't say anything. So my rigidity there was, I'm not going to repeat myself. Didn't you hear myself the first time? Or hear me the first time? Or I'm just not going to say anything until I know. So there was this generic idea around me that, oh, well, Katie's so smart because what she talks about, she just knows so much about it. No, I don't know a lot. The wisdom in the center is I only know what I know, and that's okay. As a professional intuitive, a professional psychic, I am quite willing to admit I've never studied the paganism tree, shamanism, Wiccan. I've never studied alchemy, which I believe is under Wicca. But I've never studied astrology, none of it. And I call myself a leader. And that's okay, because I am a master or a role model of a thing that I am a role model of. And it's okay that I don't know a thing about the other things. It is okay. let's drop down into these particular regions down here about what not self experiences of we could find here. Let's talk about this one here. This means that you might be holding on to people, places, or things longer than you should that are no longer healthy for you, no longer serving you. So, holding on to people, places, things, or experiences that are no longer healthy for you. Or you could be just getting rid of all these things that are healthy for you. So, a healthy support system. Well, I don't need them anymore. I'm great without them. I can prove that I don't need that anymore. So, this is those are the not self experiences there. The not self expression over here is you might find yourself avoiding truth or confronting truth too much. So, those are the not self expressions there. Being asked about what your truth is when it's being asked is the wisdom, I guess. I don't know. But I avoided confrontation and truth on my last job, and then I was asked what is wrong with the company, and I told them and told them and told them and told them. So I guess I told them too many truths, and I lost my job because they just weren't ready to hear all of the stuff. I just didn't stop. They didn't ask for it that much. But this is where we might find ourselves avoiding confrontation and truth. So I find myself avoiding woman type parties like baby showers and weddings. So I don't get the questions of when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to get married? So I literally drop a present and I run as fast as I possibly can before someone latches onto me and starts asking me questions. Or literally, there's other ways we can describe this. This is where little white lies come in. I'm not saying that any of this is you, but I'm just saying that these are possibilities. This is where somebody has an ugly AF haircut and you're like, oh yeah, that is cute-ish. So that's where the little white lies. Avoiding confrontation and truth so you don't rock the boat. All right, I purposely left this one to the last as the white centers being opened, or the centers being open. This is heart center, willpower. A not self-expression of this is overcommitting or going harder, better, faster, stronger, or longer when you weren't even asked. So maybe your teacher in high school asked you for 3 sentences, but you gave them a paragraph. Maybe somebody asked you to pick up maybe there was a shift to pick up at work and there was no pressure on you to do it, but you picked it up anyways. And maybe it's because you didn't want to rock the boat, or maybe you felt like you could take on the task, or you felt physically pressured and you felt that you had to, or maybe okay. So this particular not self-expression of this center is about proving. I need to prove myself. Now, I want to say that 70% of this population have this undefined or white or open like this. So 70% of the population are running around frustrated and feeling like they have to prove something. But you got nothing to prove at all. You got nothing to prove even to yourself. Now, I just said 70% of the population has this open. And most of us are in our not self. Like I've said, I am. What are some of the expressions that you can feel in this particular center? I'm not enough. I'm not loved. I'm not deserving. I'm not worthy. Of course you are, babes. Maybe you're just making decisions and you don't like that particular version of what you're doing. You are deserving. You are loved. You are enough. Any of those chemical feelings of not enoughness derives from here. And it's only mechanics. You are beautiful. There's nothing that you have to prove. But this center, even though it's a little one, it's a really heavy hitter. So let's run over the chart again based on what we already know. Like I said, this is I have to prove myself, not self-expression. Well, I have to prove I know. I have to prove I know what I find interesting as an spiritual leader. I have to prove I know what I'm going to do next. I have to prove that I can let go of things that are healthy for me so I can prove to people that I got it on my own. I am going to prove that I can hold on to the shittiest people and have absolutely no judgment towards them. I am going to prove that I can run around and get all these things done and hurry and hurry and hurry. So as you can see, like, this particular center really does have this big impact on the rest of your centers. So I'm going to ask you, when you're making your next decision, does it have to do with any of the not feeling enoughness or feeling like something, any of these that we just said? Remember, it's not true. You are enough. You are deserving. I just said that this is a willpower and commitment center. And 70% of this world has it undefined. Yeah, you do too. That means that it's most likely that 70% of the world are feeling extra pressure to make not to self decisions here. What does that even mean? 70% of people are making commitments that aren't right for them? Yeah. I mean, the other 30% are probably too. But I'm just saying that the only way to know what's proper for you to commit to is to respond. Your juicy sacral life force energy will tell you if you have enough life force energy to partake in it or not. You don't have to think about what you're going to commit to next. You don't have to think, of course, there's plans. But what do you respond to regarding your plans? Which ones are you like, ugh? Interestingly enough, a lot of people who have this open don't feel like they have great commitment. And that's fine. It's okay to start using your response mechanism to see what's right for you or not. See if the things that you're already committed to, see if you respond to telling people that you don't want to do them anymore. So just because this isn't defined and you don't have consistent access to energy to it doesn't mean that you can't commit to anything. I bet when you want to do something, I bet it gets done. I bet you are committed. I bet you have full willpower and commitment to it. So just because the energy is not defined here doesn't mean that you don't have it. It's just that you got to respond to the things that you want to commit to in life. And I'm talking to all you 70% of people. Make sure that you're using your proper energy to make sure that you're committing to the proper things in life. Why would we be using our energy for things that are improper? That means that we're off trajectory. That means that we're not allowing our purpose to flow through us. That means we're probably frustrated. So the next time you feel like you have to pick up something that doesn't belong absolutely anything to you, whether it is keys, groceries, intellectual knowledge, I don't know, shifts, essays, and nobody asked you to do it, but you feel like, oh, I'm going to be the one to do it. Were you even asked? Is it just open to everybody to pick up and you just feel like you have to? You feel the pressure within your system? Once again, this has nothing to do with Sky. This is the mechanics within the system, within her chart. These are the mechanics. So it doesn't matter if I was talking to Sky or if I was talking to my kitty cat behind me. I still would have been saying the same thing. So we talked about all the white parts in the chart. Let's talk about the colored parts in the chart. Now what's interesting is that the colored parts in our chart is us. And the brain is like, oh, well, that's so boring. Why would I want to be me? And that's why we end up with all of these not self experiences and all of these other places in your chart. Because your brain's like, well, this is boring. I want to be all the white things. And that's, like I said, the brain is making this conundrum. And then we end up trying to fill in the blanks, and that's where the conundrum comes. Let me tell you who you are, though, because we just talked about a bunch of who you're not. So you are a person who understands when enough is enough. And you are a person who has identity, direction, love in life, a fixed way of externalizing all of that. Now, what's interesting is that you are a manifesting generator. The only thing that you need to watch out for is that you're not trying to hurry around in life so fast, because you have the tendency to possibly do that. Try not to be instantaneous. Try not to be super risky. Respond in the moment. See what is being given to you. So here's a response in the moment. It was like July, it was June, it was still cold out. The pool was filled up, it was heated, but I literally stripped off my clothes, had my bathing suit on, I was running towards the pool, and my body was like, no, 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 no. And yeah, I should have listened to it before I splashed into the water. My body was telling me that even though my brain wanted to go swimming, don't do it because your body's not going to like it. And I surely should have listened. It was a bad experience. Not for health wise. It was just super cold. I stayed in there a while trying to prove that I could stay in there and that I could stay in a long time and it wasn't too cold. And I just wanted to prove that I could have fun with my friends. And so I was so cold when I was done. I was like intense muscle like experience. And then the only way for me to calm down from that was to get in the shower. It was like a 3-hour process of me calming down that muscle tenseness, which made me super tired. So literally because of swimming, I pretty much had to sleep the rest of the day. And it wasn't worth it. I should have just like dipped my toes into the water instead of fully like jump in there. It wasn't worth it. So I was trying to be instantaneous, but my body was telling me, no, don't do it. So it's really like, listen, it's going to tell you some stuff. Now, we are going to wrap up this particular experience by telling you a little bit about what your shining light out into the world is. So this is your sun. Your sun is going to tell me more about who you are. So, your sun is that you are an authoritarian. The iron hand, both enlightened and despotic. The capacity of the self to guide with authority. And the capacity of the self to insist that it's, yeah. So, the 7 sits here, which means that like a part of your light out into the world is like this leadership type energy. So you are the authoritarian. That is, your brain might resonate with that deeply. And your body is secretive. More than modesty, the ability to preserve harmony through discretion. What's interesting is that Sky is a streamer. I have yet to see her face. So secretiveness sounds awesome and accurate from my perspective. Where higher knowing does not have to be expressed to be recognized. So those are the general meanings of 70% of what you shine out into the world. Where's the 2 sit? The 2 sits also in identity, direction, and love and life. That's where the cross of Sphinx comes from. But if we're going to get on to this as well, I'm wondering if you are a person who sees detail. So you are the design of being the keeper of the keys, the channel of being in the beat. And you are also the prodigal, the design of being a witness. Now, you may not understand what these words mean on the logical level, but that's what they are. But yeah, I see. I wonder if a lot of people enjoy your presence in a group based on this nice column here in the center. I bet some people feel like you have a lot to provide to the group. All right. We're going to actually wrap this up now. So, SkySheSees is a manifesting generator here to respond through the sacral, which means that she is here to say uh-huh, or oh. And if she follows that response, or she is allowing her purpose to flow through her. But if she does the opposite, then she will be faced possibly with frustration, which is just a key indicator to tell her to get right back on track with her flow. And once again, her flow, or her purpose, is the Incarnation Cross. So if you are going to be Googling it, make sure you include the first couple words and the last letters at the end. So and and I don't know. That's what you're here to say, to allow your purpose to flow through you.